Why did the room fall silent the moment she walked in? No one said it aloud, but every pair of eyes carried the same question. Why was she still here after what happened on the drill field? Even she didn't know. Not yet. Ava Hale adjusted the strap of her training vest, pretending she didn't feel the weight of 100 unspoken thoughts pressing against her back. Her cheek still carried a faint, hidden bruise beneath the edge of her cap. A bruise she hadn't earned in combat, but in daylight, in front of her unit, under the cold gaze of a man who should have known better. Captain Rourke. The strike hadn't been dramatic or explosive. It had been quick, sharp, almost casual, an outburst masked as correction, a lapse of control he thought no one important would see. But someone had. Behind the one-way glass, hidden, observing, stood General Maddox. And the moment Rourke's hand connected with Ava's face, the general's expression had shifted, unreadable like a stone dropped into deep water. Ava hadn't seen him, but she felt the pressure that followed. She felt eyes on her now, even in this room, hours later. She took her seat at the briefing table. Nobody greeted her. Nobody avoided her either. It was the strange middle space, not support but not condemnation, just discomfort. The kind that said, "We don't know what you're going to do next, and we're terrified to pick a side too soon." She inhaled slowly, steadying herself. She learned early in her career that the military didn't always reward the quiet ones, the ones who followed rules, who believed respect was earned, not demanded. But she'd stuck to it anyway. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't take up unnecessary space. She didn't fight back when provoked. But today tested the last thread of that restraint. Rourke entered the room. His boots hit the floor in short, angry thuds. She didn't look up, not because she feared him, but because she feared her own reaction. If their eyes met, she wasn't sure what she'd see: anger, disappointment, humiliation. What she didn't expect was nothing. He didn't look at her. Not once. Not even in his peripheral. He acted as if she were someone else's problem, someone irrelevant, someone disposable. But there was something he didn't know. Someone had seen everything. And they hadn't stayed silent. Rourke began the briefing. "We begin mission prep at 500. I want every squad leader ready for simulation drills by." The door opened. General Maddox walked in. The oxygen left the room. Rourke stiffened. "Sir, didn't expect you." Maddox didn't respond. His eyes scanned the room, controlled, calculated, then landed on Ava. It wasn't pity. It wasn't concern. It was recognition. A subtle acknowledgement that she was at the center of something bigger than she understood. He took a seat at the back, silent. Rourke swallowed. His voice cracked on the next sentence. "As I was saying." Ava felt her pulse rise. Maddox had sat in on briefings before, but not like this. Not unannounced. Not stone-faced. Not studying every move Rourke made, as if waiting patiently for a single misstep. Something was happening behind the scenes. Something she wasn't ready to face. But there was something she hadn't told anyone, not yet. Because what happened on the drill field wasn't just a strike. It wasn't just humiliation. It wasn't just a moment of disrespect. It was the last layer of a deeper issue she'd been hiding for months. Rourke had been pushing her, targeting her, testing her. And she hadn't told a soul why. Not her bunkmate, not her closest friend, not the chaplain, not command. If they knew the truth, it wouldn't just end Rourke's career. It would expose hers. The briefing dragged on, but Ava barely heard any of it. Her thoughts swirled around the moment of impact, the snap of surprise, the heat in her cheek, the stunned silence from her unit. Not because she'd been struck, but because she hadn't reacted. She just stood there. Still. Quiet. And in the reflection of the drill hall's glass wall, she had caught the faint, ghost-like silhouette of a man standing behind it. Watching. Observing. She told herself it was Maddox, that he wouldn't waste time watching a routine drill, but now, seeing him here, she knew. He had been there. He had seen. and he wasn't letting it go. When the meeting ended, the others filed out quickly, eager to escape the tension. Ava remained seated, gathering her gear, pretending not to notice the general still watching her. Rourke approached her, voice low. "We will not discuss earlier," he muttered. She kept her eyes forward. "There's nothing to discuss, sir." Her voice was even, but inside, something trembled, anger, shame, maybe both. She didn't want to fight him. She didn't want to escalate anything. She just wanted to do her job. Rourke leaned in slightly. "Good, then we're finished." But they were. Because Maddox stood. "A word, Captain." The tone held no room for interpretation. Rourke froze. "Of course, sir." "Not here," Maddox added. "My office." Rourke nodded stiffly and left with him. Maddox paused at the doorway, looking back at Ava for a moment, as if considering saying something. He didn't. He simply gave a small nod, more to himself than to her, and walked out. Ava exhaled shakily. She wasn't relieved. She wasn't hopeful. She was something far more complicated, uncertain. People assumed the worst part of being struck was the pain, but it was, not for her. It was the silence afterward. The room full of people who pretended nothing happened. The fear of speaking out when the consequences could spiral. The knowledge that her career, the one she had fought for, sacrificed for, bled for, could crumble if one misunderstanding turned into a scandal. And the secret she carried threatened to do exactly that. She walked out of the briefing room into the open air, letting the cool wind wash over her. Training fields stretched before her, vast, controlled, disciplined. She felt small against the horizon, and yet part of something immense. Her chest tightened. If they knew why Rourke targeted her, everything would change. She wasn't ready for that truth to surface. Not yet. But secrets don't stay buried in military bases. Especially not when a general has already started digging. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the bruised pride and swallowed anger, she felt a shift. A small spark. Not revenge. Not fear. Something quieter, stronger. Determination. Some careers end in a moment. Some crumble under pressure. And some, like hers, refuse to break. Even when struck. Even when watched. Even when everything hangs by a thin, trembling thread. She squared her shoulders. Tomorrow, the real battle wouldn't be on the training ground. It would be in the truth she'd spent months avoiding. And the truth was coming for her. Slowly. Inevitably. With the weight of a general behind it. Why did Maddox stop walking when he reached the end of the hallway? Ava saw him through the window from the far side of the courtyard, the general standing still, shoulders stiff, one hand gripping the edge of a railing as if he were holding back something he wasn't ready to release. Rourke stood beside him, saying nothing. That alone was unsettling. The captain always spoke first, even when he shouldn't. But now, he was silent. A silence that echoed across the base like a warning. Ava tightened her grip on her folder, trying to calm the rapid thud of her heartbeat. She didn't know what was happening up there, but she knew it had started because of her. Because of what happened this morning. Because she didn't react, because she stayed frozen instead of defending herself. Her bunkmate Jessa walked beside her, breaking the quiet. "You okay?" Ava forced a nod. "Just a long day." Jessa studied her face for a moment, eyes pausing on the faint mark near her cheek. "You sure?" "Yeah." The lie felt heavier than usual. Jessa didn't push, she never did. But there was a sadness in her eyes, a quiet frustration that Ava wouldn't open up. Most soldiers vented, complained, ranted. Ava held everything in. She always had. It was safer that way. Safer for her. Safer for the truth she was protecting. They reached the barracks and Jessa peeled off to change for chow. Ava stayed behind, walking toward the back steps where few people went this time of day. She needed a moment, a breath, something to keep herself from unraveling. But the second she stepped outside, she stopped. Rourke was there. He stood alone, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, jaw tight. His eyes lifted the moment he noticed her. There was no anger this time, no smug control, just tension stretched thin like he was seconds away from snapping. She should have walked away, avoided him, but something in his expression told her this wasn't a confrontation. It was a warning. "Ava," he said quietly, almost steady, "don't go near Maddox." Her stomach knotted. "I wasn't planning to." "I'm serious." His voice dipped lower. "You don't understand what's happening." "Then explain it," she said, surprising herself. Rourke looked stunned that she pushed back. For once, he didn't have a ready comeback. His throat bobbed, eyes shifting as if searching for the right words or searching for a lie believable enough to calm her. "You think I strike soldiers for no reason?" he asked. She said nothing. He huffed out a humorless breath. "The general's looking for an excuse, anything. He's been after me since." He stopped. Ava blinked. "Since what?" Rourke didn't answer. He stared past her at the horizon, watching the last sunlight fade behind the training towers. A shadow crossed his expression, something Ava had never seen from him, fear. He scrubbed a hand over his face. "Just keep your distance." She opened her mouth to respond, but footsteps sounded behind her. Both turned. General Maddox stood at the bottom of the steps. Ava's breath hitched. Rourke straightened immediately. Maddox didn't look at him. He looked at her. "Hale," the general said, his voice calm, unreadable. "Walk with me." Rourke took one step forward. "Sir, I don't think that's—" "That wasn't a request, Captain." The reprimand sliced the air clean. Rourke froze. Ava followed the general, her pulse pounding in her ears. They walked in silence toward the edge of the training field, where the grass met the concrete, and the only sound was wind cutting through the distance. Maddox stopped beside a bench. "Sit." She obeyed. He stood, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the empty drill yard, the same place where everything spiraled this morning. He didn't look at her when he spoke. "I saw what happened." Ava swallowed, heart racing. "Sir, it wasn't." "It was," he interrupted quietly. "No point pretending otherwise." There was something in his tone she didn't expect, not softness, but weight. Not anger, but concern with steel under it. "You didn't react," he continued. "Not even instinctively. Most soldiers would have flinched, stepped back, raised a hand. You didn't." Ava gripped the edge of the bench. "I was caught off guard." "No," Maddox said. "You were prepared." The accusation wasn't harsh, but it hit hard. Her breathing stilled. Prepared. He knew. He didn't know everything, not yet, but he'd seen enough to realize it wasn't the first time Rourke targeted her. And Ava didn't know if she felt relief at being understood or fear that her secrets were unraveling faster than she could contain them. Maddox finally looked at her. "What aren't you telling me?" The question slipped into her chest like a cold blade. She looked away, jaw tightening. She couldn't answer. If she did, everything she'd been protecting these past months would collapse. Her career, her choices, her reputation. Maddox watched her carefully, then lowered his voice. "I'm not here to punish you," he said. "I'm here to protect what's left of you before you break." Her eyes snapped back to him. "Protect?" General Maddox wasn't known for softness. He was known for strategy, discipline, discipline again, and then some more discipline. Emotion was never part of his command style. "What do you think is happening, sir?" she asked, testing him. He didn't flinch. "I think," he said slowly, "that Captain Rourke has been pushing you, testing your boundaries, pushing past them. And I think you've been tolerating far more than you should." Tolerating. The word made her chest ache. He stepped closer, voice low. "I need to know why." Ava opened her mouth and closed it again. She felt her vision tightening, her breath catching. emotions rising from a place she'd kept locked for too long. She whispered, "It's complicated. Everything worth fixing is." Her throat stung. She wasn't someone who broke easily. She wasn't someone who cried, not in front of superiors, not in front of anyone, but today had worn her thin. The strike, the silence, the attention, the questions. And now this. Maddox softened a fraction. "Ava, if you're protecting him." She jolted, "I'm not." He exhaled, almost relieved. "Then who?" Her heart pounded. This was it. The truth she'd been hiding. The reason she never pushed back. The reason she stayed quiet. The reason she endured Rourke's behavior for months. And Maddox was waiting. But she couldn't say it. Not yet. Because saying it would drag someone else into this storm, someone who didn't deserve the fallout, someone who wasn't ready, someone she had promised to protect. She lowered her eyes. "I can't tell you." Maddox studied her silently, jaw tight. For a moment she thought he'd press again, demand answers, order her to speak. But he didn't. He nodded once, slow, deliberate. "You will," he said quietly, "when you're ready. But until then, Ava, you're not facing this alone." Her breath shuddered. He turned to leave. But halfway across the field, he stopped. "Without turning around," he said, "and Hale, what happened today, it won't happen again, I guarantee that." Then he walked off, leaving her on the bench, her secrets trembling, her future shifting, her heart unsteady with something she hadn't felt in months. Hoping. But hope came with danger. Because now Rourke knew the general was watching. And when cornered, desperate men don't always break. Sometimes they fight back. Hard. And Ava wasn't ready for the storm that was already forming behind her. Why did the base feel different the next morning, as if every wall, every corridor, every pair of watching eyes knew something she did? Ava stepped out onto the gravel path, the cold morning air chilling her lungs. Training hadn't started yet, but already soldiers moved with unusual stiffness, hurried steps, hushed conversations, glances that snapped away the second she looked. Something had shifted overnight. Something big. As she walked toward the simulation hangar, she noticed Lieutenant Mara jogging up beside her. Mara rarely spoke to her outside drills. She wasn't unkind, just distant, focused, loyal to her own circle. But today, her voice carried something else. "You all right?" Mara asked. Ava blinked. "Yeah, why?" Mara hesitated. "Because Rourke looked off this morning." That wasn't news. Rourke had been unraveling since yesterday's confrontation, but Ava stayed quiet, waiting. Mara added, "He was in the command building at dawn, loud enough that even the hallway guards heard. Something about false accusations and chains of command." Ava's pulse tightened. She forced her tone steady. "He didn't say anything specific." "No, but he's rattled." Mara lowered her voice. "Just keep your head down, okay?" Ava nodded, though she knew keeping her head down wasn't an option anymore. Not after Maddox intervened. Not after the strike. Not after months of quiet endurance that were now unraveling thread by thread. As Mara jogged off, Ava continued toward the hangar. The closer she got, the thicker the tension felt, like air before a storm. Inside, soldiers assembled around the simulation pods. Rourke stood at the front, staring at a tablet screen, jaw clenched, shoulders rigid. He didn't look up when Ava approached. He didn't need to. She could sense his anger from meters away, not hot and explosive, but cold and calculating. She took her place in formation. Rourke finally lifted his head. "We're changing today's training schedule," he said, voice clipped. "Pair exercises only, forced cooperation, no exceptions." Several soldiers exchanged confused glances. Forced cooperation drills were reserved for situations where trust had to be tested or repaired. They were physically demanding, emotionally draining, and mentally unforgiving. Ava felt dread settle in her chest before he even spoke the next words. Hale, Rourke said, eyes locking onto hers, you're with me. A quiet murmur rippled through the group. Ava kept her face blank. She couldn't show fear, couldn't give him the satisfaction. Yes, sir. Rourke smirked slightly, not amused but triumphant. A test, a trap, a chance to regain control after losing it yesterday. He led her toward the far simulation chamber, the one used for advanced combat scenarios. The doors slid shut behind them with a heavy mechanical sound that echoed through the room. Ava steadied her breathing. Rourke strapped on his harness. You think Maddox can protect you forever? She didn't respond. He stepped closer. You think he knows what you're hiding? She forced her gaze forward. This isn't the place to. Oh, I think it is. His voice sharpened. Because whatever you're keeping from him, it won't stay hidden long. Her jaw tightened. With respect, sir, I'm just here for the drill. You're here, he said, because you made yourself a problem. A problem. Not a soldier. Not a team member. Not a subordinate. A problem. The word felt like a blade. The simulation chamber lights dimmed, and the environment began to load. An abandoned industrial complex, tight corridors, low visibility, teamwork required to navigate safely. Rourke moved closer. You think staying quiet protects anyone. It only makes you vulnerable. She swallowed hard. Start the drill. His smile faded. Fine. The scenario activated. Ava moved through the first corridor, her senses sharp. She kept a measured distance, refusing to let him box her in. But Rourke wasn't focused on the simulation. He stayed behind her, stalking her movements, watching her too closely, not as a partner, but as a predator waiting for an opening. At the first obstacle, a collapsed platform requiring mutual support to cross, Rourke stepped in front of her. Well, he said, trust me, or afraid I'll push you. She met his eyes. I don't need to trust you, I need to complete the exercise. He leaned in slightly. You think Maddox cares about you. He doesn't. He cares about the optics, the politics, your leverage. Ava didn't react outwardly, but something twisted inside her. Maddox had shown concern, not calculation, right? Or was she just desperate to believe someone finally saw her? She stepped onto the narrow beam. Rourke followed, too close. His hand ghosted near her back, not touching but threatening presence. Halfway across, she paused. Sir, space. He didn't move. Why? Afraid of falling. She ignored him and continued. They completed the obstacle, but the silence afterward was suffocating. The sound of their simulated environment filled the air, distant alarms, flickering lights, manufactured tension. But Ava's heartbeat was the only real thing she felt. At the final checkpoint, her foot hit a sensor on the floor. A dull beep echoed. Rourke exhaled sharply. You're distracted. She didn't deny it. He stepped closer again, too close. What are you so afraid of, Hale? The truth coming out, or who it leads back to? Her stomach twisted. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. She whispered, if you know, then you know why I can't talk. Rourke studied her for a long moment, the simulation flickering around them. Then he said something she didn't expect. I wasn't trying to ruin you. Her breath hitched. You struck me. I snapped, he admitted, voice heavy. But not because of you, because of what you represent. What I represent. You're protecting someone, he said. And you think if you fall, they fall. But Hale, you won't be able to carry this much longer. And when you break. He stopped. The simulation abruptly shut off. Lights went bright. Doors opened. General Maddox stood there. His expression unreadable. Rourke stiffened, breath hitching. Ava straightened, wiping her palms against her uniform. Maddox's voice was calm. Both of you, my office now. Rourke's face paled. Ava's heart plummeted. They followed Maddox down the hallway. No words, No sounds, just the echo of their boots and the weight of consequences hanging above them like a blade waiting to drop. Inside his office, Maddox closed the door quietly, the soft sound somehow more threatening than a slam. He turned, eyes sharp. "One of you is lying," he said, "and I'm going to find out who." Ava felt her pulse hammer. Rourke inhaled sharply, ready to defend himself. But Maddox held up a hand. "Not now, not yet." His gaze settled on Ava. "Hale, you're dismissed." Her breath caught, "Sir." "Dismissed," he repeated, but softer. Rourke looked stunned. He expected her to be interrogated. He expected her to break. Instead, Maddox had separated them, a strategic move, not emotional. Ava stepped out into the hallway. The door shut behind her. She leaned against the wall, breath shaking. Maddox was closing in. Rourke was unraveling. And the secret she'd protected for months was dangerously close to the surface. She slid down to the bench, burying her face in her hands. Because the person she was protecting wasn't Rourke. And it wasn't herself. It was someone whose entire future depended on her silence. Someone innocent. Someone vulnerable. Someone the military would not forgive if the truth came out. And Maddox, he wasn't going to stop until he dug it up. Why did every door Ava passed seem to whisper the same question? How long until the truth reaches us too? She walked the hallway slowly, hands trembling just enough that she tucked them into her pockets to hide it. She couldn't let anyone see her unravel. Not now. Not when everything was crashing toward the moment she'd been avoiding for months. She stepped outside onto the courtyard. The sky was overcast, a low gray ceiling pressing down on the base. The kind of sky that made the whole world feel tighter, heavier, closer. She breathed in a shaky breath. Someone sat on the benches near the barracks, head bowed, elbows on their knees. As she approached, the figure looked up. "Jessa." The moment their eyes met, Jessa stood. "Ava." Ava forced a tired smile. "You're up early." "You didn't come to meal prep." Jessa paused, studying her. Something happened. Ava didn't trust her voice. She sat beside her instead, staring at the ground. Jessa shifted slightly. "Is this about Rourke?" Ava's chest tightened. "I can't talk about it." "You can talk to me, I won't repeat anything." Jessa's voice softened. "You know that." Ava did, but this wasn't about trust. It was about protection. "I just messed up," Ava whispered. Jessa frowned. "No, you didn't." He crossed a line. Ava hugged her arms around herself. She didn't want sympathy. Sympathy cracked the walls she was desperately holding together. Jessa added gently, "You're carrying something alone. I can feel it." Ava's throat tightened, "And I need to keep it that way." Jessa didn't push further. She simply nodded and sat with her in silence. The kind of silence that wasn't empty, it was support without questions. But it couldn't last. Because the barracks door opened sharply, and Lieutenant Foster jogged out, scanning the courtyard. "Hale." Ava stood immediately. "Yes, sir." "Maddox wants you in the operations building, now." Jessa's eyes widened. Ava swallowed hard. "Go," Jessa whispered, "and whatever happens, just breathe." Ava forced a nod and followed Foster across the base. The operations building loomed ahead, dark glass reflecting the gray sky. Ava entered, heart pounding. The hallways were quiet, too quiet, until she reached a door left slightly open. Maddox's voice filtered through. "No, Captain, you're done making excuses." Ava froze. Rourke was inside. Maddox was in full command mode, a low, controlled tone that carried more authority than shouting ever could. She waited. Then Maddox spoke again, each word slow and measured. "What happened yesterday was unacceptable, and your behavior this morning confirms a pattern." There was a short, tense silence. Rourke finally spoke, voice strained. "Sir, I know how it looked, but she's hiding something. She's manipulating this." Ava closed her eyes. Maddox's reply was cold steel. You struck a subordinate during training. Nothing she says or doesn't say changes that fact. Another silence, then quieter. You're suspended from command duties pending investigation. Ava felt the world shift. Rourke's breath caught, "Sir." "That's final." A chair scraped. Footsteps approached. Ava stepped back instinctively as Rourke stormed out of the office and froze when he spotted her. His eyes were dark, furious, confused. But beneath the anger, there was something else. Fear. He leaned in close enough that only she could hear him. "You've made a mistake." Ava didn't move. She didn't respond. She didn't have to. Maddox stood behind Rourke in the doorway, arms crossed, gaze sharp. "Captain," Maddox said. Rourke stepped away and walked off, fists clenched so tightly they shook. Maddox didn't watch him go. His attention was on her. "Hail inside." Ava entered the office slowly. Maddox closed the door and motioned for her to sit. The room felt too quiet, like a battlefield right before the final push. Maddox remained standing. "Are you all right?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. She tried to nod, but her voice betrayed her. "I think so." He studied her with a kind of patience she wasn't used to. "I need to understand something. I don't need details yet, just truth." He paused. "Are you in danger, Ava?" Her breath stilled. He wasn't asking about Rourke, not directly. He was asking about the thing underneath, the thing she'd been hiding. The thing that could destroy everything if mishandled. "No," she whispered, "not danger." "Then what are you afraid of?" Her eyes dropped to her hands. She wished she could lie. It would be easier, safer. She could say she just didn't want drama. She could say she wanted to stay out of conflict. She could say she didn't want to ruin anyone's career. But Maddox wasn't asking to interrogate. He was asking because he genuinely needed the truth. She swallowed. "I'm afraid of who gets hurt if this goes any further." His brow creased slightly. "You mean Rourke?" "No." She looked up. And for the first time, Maddox saw the fear she'd kept hidden. His voice softened. "Then who?" She hesitated long enough that he sighed and pulled out a chair, sitting across from her. "Ava, listen to me." He leaned in, forearms on his knees. "I've seen soldiers fall apart under pressure. I've seen careers destroyed because someone waited too long to ask for help. I don't want that for you." Her chest tightened. "But I can't help," he continued, "if I don't know what I'm protecting you from." Ava blinked rapidly, fighting the sting in her eyes. He wasn't pressing her with authority. He was reaching for her with concern. She whispered, "It's not just my secret." He exhaled slowly. "I suspected as much." Her breath hitched. "You did." He gave a small nod. "You're not the type to stay silent to protect yourself, but to protect someone else. That fits." Her throat tightened. Tears threatened not from sadness, but from the unbearable weight of finally being seen. Maddox leaned back. "I'm not asking you to betray anyone. I'm asking for enough clarity to keep you safe." She clasped her hands together, knuckles white. "There's someone on base," she whispered. "Someone who would be blamed if the truth came out. Someone who's already on thin ice." Maddox's expression sharpened. "A trainee." Ava shook her head. He waited. Then quietly, she said the words that had been buried for months. "It's my younger sister." Maddox's eyes widened, not in shock but realization. Ava inhaled shakily. She enlisted under a provisional clearance. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near my unit, but she was struggling. Rourke found out. He threatened to expose her she swallowed hard. Unless I stayed quiet, followed orders, took the hits, took the blame. Maddox sat back, absorbing her words. "You protected her," he murmured. Ava nodded helplessly. "She's only 17, sir. She lied about her age to enlist early. If this gets out, she'll be discharged, worse. Maddox closed his eyes for a moment, exhaling hard, not in frustration, but in the heavy understanding of everything she'd carried alone. "Ava," he said softly, "you shouldn't have been put in that position." A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. He didn't move to comfort her. He wasn't that kind of man, but his voice held something steadier, stronger. "You did the right thing. You protected someone who couldn't protect herself." Ava wiped her cheek quickly, but now everything is falling apart. "No," Maddox said firmly. "It's finally coming together." She looked up, confused. Maddox stood. "Because now I know exactly what Rourke was holding over you." Her breath caught. "Sir, please, you can't tell." "I won't," Maddox said, holding up a hand. "Not unless it becomes necessary." Her shoulders sagged with relief. "But," he added, "we're not done. Rourke isn't walking away from this untouched, and neither are the people who enabled him." Ava's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" Maddox looked toward the window, his voice low. "There's a reason he felt bold enough to use your sister against you." A chill washed through her. "What reason?" Maddox turned back to her, and for the first time she saw true anger in his eyes. Controlled, precise, dangerous. Because someone higher up was protecting him. Her breath stilled. Someone higher up. Someone above Rourke. Someone with influence. And whoever it was, they weren't going to let this scandal unfold quietly. Maddox's next words were quiet, but they made her entire world tilt. "Ava, this goes deeper than you think." Why did Maddox's expression change the moment he said the words, "someone higher up"? It wasn't fear. It wasn't uncertainty. It was calculation, the kind of focus a commander gets when he finally sees the shape of the enemy in the fog. Ava sat frozen in her chair, pulse loud in her ears. The office suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier. "Sir," she whispered, "how far up are we talking?" Maddox didn't answer immediately. That alone told her everything. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, controlled. "Higher than you, higher than Rourke, and higher than me." Ava's breath caught. A name flashed in her mind, but she pushed it away. It couldn't be. It didn't make sense. Why would someone with real authority get involved in something so small, so petty, so personal? Unless it wasn't small. Unless it wasn't petty. Unless the person pulling strings wasn't protecting Rourke, but using him. Maddox watched her closely. "I didn't want you involved in this, but you already are, and now we need to be precise." Ava swallowed hard. "Sir, I don't understand. Why would anyone above you care about what happens in a training drill?" He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. "Because it wasn't about the drill, and it wasn't about you." Ava's stomach twisted. "My sister." "No," Maddox said quietly, "something else." Her heart pounded harder. "If not us," she whispered, "then what is this really about?" Maddox exhaled slowly. "There's an ongoing internal review in this base. A quiet one. Someone at the top is manipulating personnel assignments, training evaluations, even disciplinary actions. Rourke aligned himself with the wrong people." "And they're protecting him?" Ava asked. Maddox tilted his head. "No, they're using him. The moment he's no longer useful, they'll drop him." Ava's voice trembled. "And me?" "You," Maddox said. "They never counted on." A chill ran through her. She wasn't part of the plan. She wasn't supposed to matter. She had become a problem simply by existing at the wrong place at the wrong time. "What do they want?" she whispered. "To remove obstacles," Maddox said. "Rourke wants power. They want someone desperate enough to do their dirty work." Ava felt nausea rise. "Sir, what happens now?" "Now," Maddox straightened, "I protect my people." He said it with a seriousness that steadied her for a moment, but the worry rushed back just as fast. "What about Rourke?" she asked. Maddox's jaw tightened. "He's not our priority anymore." Ava blinked, but he's still. Hale, Maddox's voice softened. He was never the real threat. She froze. Footsteps echoed outside, hurried, anxious. Maddox turned his head. A knock. "Come in," he called. Lieutenant Foster opened the door, face pale. "Sir, you need to see this." Maddox took the tablet from him. His eyes scanned the screen. His expression shifted, not shock, but a deepening of the storm already building inside him. He handed the tablet to Ava. Her pulse slammed. On the screen was a report. Filed under her name. Filed against her. Claiming insubordination. Claiming misconduct. Claiming she had struck work during training, not the other way around. Ava's blood ran cold. Her hands shook. "This is false," she whispered. "I know," Maddox said immediately, "but whoever filed it knew the timing would create chaos." Ava's voice cracked. "Sir, if this spreads—" "It won't," Maddox said firmly. "I'll contain it." But even as he said it, Ava saw something flicker in his eyes, the realization that containment wouldn't be simple. Someone had moved fast. Someone powerful. "He's trying to ruin me," she whispered. "No," Maddox corrected, "they are." A tight silence filled the room. Then Ava asked the question she dreaded, "What about my sister?" Maddox hesitated for the first time. "They haven't touched her, yet." The word "yet" made Ava's heart seize. She pressed her palms against her knees, fighting the rise of panic. "I can't let her get dragged into this," she whispered. "She wanted a chance to prove herself. She just made a mistake." Maddox nodded. "And you protected her. That matters. But now we need a strategy before this escalates." Ava lifted her gaze. "What do you want me to do?" "Stay away from Rourke, stay quiet, stay alert, and stay close to me." She inhaled sharply. "People will talk." "Let them," his voice didn't waver. "Your safety comes first." There was something in his tone she hadn't expected, not softness, not familiarity, but a kind of conviction she hadn't felt from anyone in a long time. But even conviction has limits. "What if this goes beyond your authority?" she asked quietly. Maddox paused. Then he answered with the truth she feared. "Then it becomes a war we can't fight alone." Ava stared at the floor. The base suddenly felt dangerous in a way she'd never experienced, not because of gunfire or drills or missions, but because of people. People in shadows, people with power, people who decided whose career lived or died. A tapping sound pulled her from her thoughts. It was raining soft drops on the window, gentle but building. Maddox stood. "You should head back to the barracks. I need time to work on this quietly." Ava rose slowly. "Sir, thank you." He didn't answer right away. He looked at her with a mixture of respect and concern. "You've carried too much alone," he said. "Let me take some of it." The words nearly undid her. She nodded once quickly, then left before her emotions betrayed her. She walked through the hallway, feeling every shadow in her peripheral vision, every movement, every whisper. When she stepped outside, the rain had grown heavier. The courtyard was nearly empty. She hurried across it, head down, until she reached the barracks door. She pushed it open and stopped. Rourke was inside, standing at the foot of her bunk, waiting. The door swung shut behind her. Ava's breath froze. Rourke didn't move. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply watched her, eyes strained, restless, dark with something she couldn't name. When he finally spoke, it was barely above a whisper. "You should have stayed quiet." Ava's heart dropped. His next words were colder. "You have no idea what you've stepped into." She stepped back, pulse racing. "Captain, you're not supposed to be here." Rourke took one slow step forward. "And after tonight, neither are you." Ava's breath caught. This wasn't anger. This wasn't humiliation. This was fear. fear of something bigger, closing in on both of them. And Rourke, desperate, cornered, unraveling, was the spark that might ignite everything. Why did Rourke's eyes look different now? Less cruel, more hunted. Ava stood frozen near the door, rainwater dripping from her sleeves, heartbeat shaking her ribs. Rourke wasn't blocking her way, not physically, but the threat in his voice carried something she'd never heard from him before. Fear. He wasn't intimidating her. He was warning her. Ava forced her voice steady. "Captain, you need to leave. Maddox suspended." "I don't care what Maddox did," Rourke cut in, voice sharp but cracking at the edges. "You think this is about us. You think this is about a slap on a drill field." Ava swallowed. "It is." Rourke shook his head slowly. "No, and that's the problem." She stepped back instinctively when he moved toward the center of the room, not to chase her, but to create distance between himself and the doorway, as if he didn't trust what might come through it. "Then what is it?" Ava asked. He exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. "You're not supposed to be in the middle of this. Hale, I swear, if I could get you out of it, I would." Her pulse thudded. "Get me out of what?" "Everything," he whispered. "The review, the sabotage, the people pulling strings higher than any of us, the ones who promised me protection." He stopped. Ava's voice tightened. "Promised you protection from what?" Rourke didn't answer. Instead, he stepped toward her bunk, grabbed a folded piece of paper from his pocket, and tossed it onto her bed. It landed with a soft, ominous whisper. "Read it," he said. Ava's hand shook slightly as she lifted it. It wasn't a report. It wasn't a threat. It was a list. A list of names. 8 names. Officers, sergeants, 2 trainees, and her sister. Ava felt her chest cave in. "What is this?" she whispered. Rourke's voice dropped lower. "These are the people someone at the top wants removed, quietly, without scandal, without attention." Ava stared at the paper, breath shallow. "But why her?" "Because she wasn't supposed to be here," Rourke said. "She slipped through the cracks. They want to close the cracks." Ava's vision blurred with disbelief. "And you were helping them." Rourke's jaw tightened. "I didn't know at first. I thought it was just performance evaluations. But then penalties got harsher, punishments got stranger, files disappeared, promises were made." A drop of rain fell off her sleeve, landing on the list. Rourke continued, voice strained. "And when I realized what was happening, I'd already tied myself to them." Ava's hands curled around the paper. "So they told you to go after me?" "No," he shook his head hard. "You got caught in the crossfire. They only told me to keep you under pressure, keep you compliant, keep you quiet." A breath escaped her, more disbelief than anger. "You hit me." Rourke winced. "I lost control. That was never part of the plan. And when I realized Maddox saw." Ava stepped closer. "Wait, how do you know Maddox saw?" Rourke's expression shifted. "He wasn't supposed to be there," he said quietly. "His presence wasn't in the schedule. Someone tipped him off." A pulse of alarm shot through her. "Tipped him off about what?" "That you were next on the list." Ava's heart stopped. Rourke held her gaze, broken, desperate, terrified. "Ava, you weren't supposed to make it past this week." A faint sound echoed outside the barracks, footsteps. Rourke flinched, looking toward the door. "They're moving fast," he whispered, "too fast." Ava backed away from the door. "We need to go to Maddox, now." Rourke shook his head. "No, you go." "Rourke." "You go," he repeated firmly. "If I'm with you, it only puts a target on your back." Ava hesitated. "What about you?" His laugh was hollow, bitter. "My career's done. My reputation's finished. But maybe I can still fix one thing." Rourke took another step back, toward the window, as if preparing to leave through it. "Hale," he said quietly, "I'm sorry." Ava stiffened. "For what?" "For everything." Another set of footsteps echoed outside. Rourke's voice dropped into urgency. Go now. Before she could argue, he slipped out the window, disappearing into the shadows. Ava ran. Through the rain. Across the courtyard. Into the operations building. Her boots splashed through puddles as she took the stairs 2 at a time. She reached Maddox's office and pushed the door open without knocking. He looked up immediately. Hale. Sir, her voice cracked, breath shaky. There's something you need to see. She handed him the list. Maddox's face changed in an instant. Not panic. Not shock. Purpose. He read the names slowly, eyes narrowing. Where did this come from? Rourke, Ava whispered. He inhaled sharply. He admitted involvement. He said he didn't know at first, but he was being used. Sir, my sister, she's on that list because she shouldn't have been here. They want her removed. They want all of them removed. Maddox's jaw tightened. This isn't a disciplinary conspiracy, he said. It's a purge. Ava's knees weakened. He steadied her with one hand. Sit, he said softly. You've done exactly what you should. She collapsed into the chair, breathing hard. Maddox stood, packing once, twice, his mind running faster than his footsteps. Hale, you understand what you've handed me, right? He asked. She nodded, proof. No, he corrected, turning back to her. A weapon. Her heart pounded. Maddox continued. Someone higher up is trying to clean house before the inspection next quarter. They want perfect numbers, perfect personnel, no risks, no loose ends. Ava swallowed. People aren't loose ends. No, Maddox agreed, but power makes some people forget that. He grabbed his coat. I need to take this to the Inspector General's representative, quietly. Ava stood. I'm coming. He stopped. No, he said firmly. You've done enough. You're not a soldier in this part. You're a witness. And they won't risk moving against you now, not with me holding their evidence. But my sister. She's safe with my team, Maddox said. I already sent someone to bring her to secure quarters. Ava's chest loosened, just a little. Maddox opened the door. Hale. She looked up. You showed courage, he said softly. Quiet courage, the kind that changes things. Her eyes burned. He gave a faint nod, respectful, steady, and left. Ava stood alone in the empty office, rain tapping softly against the windows. Her reflection in the glass looked different now. Not broken. Not afraid. Not silent. Just standing. Still standing. Minutes felt like hours. Then the door opened again. Maddox stepped back in, water dripping from his coat, breathing heavier than before, but eyes steady. It's done, he said. Ava exhaled shakily. Sir, what does that mean? It means they'll investigate. They'll go after the real culprits. And you, your sister, you're both protected now. He paused, then added quietly. The strike, the silence, the pressure, you endured all of it to protect someone else. That will not be overlooked. Ava's voice wavered. What happens to Rourke? Maddox hesitated. He gave us the list that might save lives and careers. That will be considered. Ava nodded slowly. She didn't hate him. She didn't forgive him. But she understood the chains crushing him now. Maddox stepped closer, voice low and reflective. You know, strength isn't always the noise we make. Sometimes it's the quiet choice, the one no one sees. Ava lowered her gaze. He added softly, you carried someone else's fate on your shoulders. Most would have collapsed. You didn't. A long silence settled between them. Then Maddox said the words that felt like a closing chapter in her chest. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. Ava felt tears gather, but not from pain. From release. From finally being heard. From finally being free. She straightened, wiped her face, and nodded once. Not as a soldier. not as a burden, but as someone who survived the storm with her humanity intact. Outside, the rain began to ease, and inside, Avahale took her first quiet breath in months. Steady, unbroken, ready for whatever came next.